Hi, you guys. I'm out here in southwest New Mexico with my dogs. We're out here just enjoying a nice Saturday. It's nice and cool out here, and a little bit breezy. Not too hot, not too cold. I think this is just right. But anyway, yeah, look at this thing. Here, I'll turn the camera around. My deal got stuck. What are you doing, you animal? There's my two friends right there. Hey, Scooby-Doo. That's Scooby-Doo and Velma. There's Velma. Anyway, look at this big old, it's like a ancient basalt lava flow. See over there, you can see part of it right down there, goes down there. Here's a piece of it. I was trying to see if I could find like some kind of crystals or something, you know, where like, I don't know, hot water came through some cracks or something. That'd be really cool. Find some crystals. I found crystals way over there, but this is the first time I've come over here. So I'm checking that out. Hey, what's that? Sometimes you can find artifacts laying on the ground, like projectile points, mainly pottery shards. Yeah, there's my truck over there. So, yeah, I'm not getting way far out. Let's get around a little bit out here looking for rocks. See here? I like looking for rocks. Good ones. Mainly those shiny golden ones. Those are like really nice rocks. Now, I was looking on the internet this morning at the spot price of gold. Hey, look at that. Let's see if I can bust that open. Oops. Anyway, spot price of gold is freaking $3,000 an ounce. I couldn't believe it. I'm thinking that gold and silver are really going to go up a lot with the way our current administration is behaving. You know, alienating us from our friends and everything, and tariffs and all. I think there's going to be economic uncertainty, and from what I understand, when there's economic uncertainty, people start buying gold and silver. So that could possibly make it go up. I don't know, if you got any money, you might want to sink a little change into some ounces of silver and gold and platinum, whatever you can afford. You know, me, I can afford silver. I can't afford gold. I have to go out here in the boonies and look for some if I want to find any. Shoot. Thought I found me a big old crystal, but nope. Sometimes you find them, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you get lucky and find light, sometimes you have bad luck and don't find nothing. But whatever the case, getting out in nature, that makes it all worthwhile. And I don't think you can hardly do any better than getting out in nature out here in southern New Mexico. I love it out here. So I was originally born and raised in North Florida on the north coast of the beach. I went to the beach every day. But I don't know, ever since that time that I got swept several miles out into the ocean and was struggling for my life trying to make it back to the shore, ever since then I just kind of lost my appetite for the ocean. So I'm good with dry land. Hey, Look at here. Hey, Scooby-Doo, come here. Come here, Scoob. Come here. Come here, buddy. Come over here, dude. Look, what is it? What is that thing? Come here. See, what is that? Look, right here. What is that? What is that, Scoob? Get him. Get that thing. Is that the thing? What is that? Get that thing. Get that thing. Get him. Get him. Get that thing. Get that thing. Where's that thing? He likes to get that thing. Anyway, hey, you guys. Talk a little bit about some important topic, which is a dear to my heart and to my livelihood, and I imagine it's dear to a bunch of you guys' livelihood too. Maybe your mom or your dad, grandma, grandpa, you know, disabled brother, sister, cousin, whoever, friends. I don't like it the way Social Security's being attacked. I don't like the way any of it's being attacked, but now they're going after Social Security. They're going after my livelihood, because that's all I got now. I'm an old man. I gotta sit on this rock. Gotta turn it around a little. Yeah, I'm an old man, you know. Look at all that gray hair all over me. I'm an old cancer survivor. And you got guys like Musk and that other guy, I can't remember his name, but the judge told them they can't have access to all that Social Security data. And then some guy works over there, he's some big shot. He said that that they might like retaliate by shutting the whole system down, the whole Social Security system. What right do they have? How can they have that much power? Yeah, I don't think it's lawful. You know, we paid into that. That's Congress, you know, the House and the Senate and all. They passed laws. Now you got like one unelected bureaucrat, Elon fucking Musk, trying to mess up my life, your life, your grandma. You're gonna have your in-laws knocking at your door. You know, when they can't pay their mortgage anymore because they lost their Social Security that they earned, they're gonna be knocking on your door if you have a house or whatever, asking if they can stay with you because they lost it, you know. And because you have a good heart and everything, you'll let them in. You'll let them live with you. But you don't want that, and they don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want to have to go to my relatives and say, hey, you know, they done canceled Social Security now. I don't have shit. And I lost it all whenever I had cancer, and now it's been on Social Security, so now they want to take that away from me. So they wouldn't let me be homeless, but damn it, I don't want to have to ask them for help like that after working all my life for 53 years, putting into Social Security, and then just when I need it the most, you know, I ain't getting any younger. You know, then they try to pull the rug out from under me and everybody else. It ain't right. I don't know where Elon Musk gets off being a guy from South Africa coming to our country, an illegal immigrant, breaking immigration laws, screwing over his own employees. I mean, what? Did his parents do a number on him or something? Or did South Africa do a number on his brain to make him just like seething with hate for humanity and just want to fuck anybody over any way you can? You know, who cares if that guy over there has to sleep on the street and it's cold in the winter? Thank goodness summer's about to come up, but summer don't last forever. But yeah, I swear, if these checks don't get deposited, we need to go on a national freaking strike and shut the whole system down. They want to They want to shut down some systems. Let's show them what the will of the people can do. The common folk, we outnumber them. They depend on us. All we have to do is bring them to their knees. Stop work. Don't buy nothing. Go on rent, mortgage strikes, take money out of the bank, like $2, and then the next day put it back in. Everybody's doing that. We can cause chaos in the economic system. We can shut the goddamn thing down, make them lose trillions and trillions of dollars. And I'm serious, too. I did some serious studies on this, and that's what can happen. We can shut the government down, the government, they would be losing like tax revenue like crazy, so they would be screaming bloody murder. Corporations would be screaming at the government, wanting them to do something about it, and there's nothing they can do about it. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Because we can have rolling protests. We can show up over there on Main Street, protest our asses off, and then whenever the cops show up, we automatically disperse. Now we're showing up on Fifth Avenue. We're protesting over there. As soon as the cops show up, we're gone. See how that works? It's a rolling protest. How can they fight that? They can't. Because as soon as they get there, there's nothing left for them. They could patrol an empty street. An empty street with nobody buying anything. Everybody, using minimal electricity, minimal driving. Get out there now and start planting that victory garden. This is the time to do it. It's springtime. So I swear, make a movement out of it. There's a lot of people protesting right now all over the place about this garbage going on. So, if they don't get the point, we can press the point. We can shut it down. I'm serious. I don't want to lose my home. I lived there for 6 years now. I don't want to lose my home and be homeless. I don't want nobody to be thrown out on the street and lose what they're due just because a bunch of greedy assholes have to have the next highest number. That's all they care about, that spreadsheet. They could have $1 trillion and that wouldn't be enough for them. They don't care. So that's what I got, about Social Security. This is a real nice area to be out into. Makes me calm down a little bit. Because I swear, for the last couple months, because of all this bullshit that's been going on with that goddamn Donald fucking Trump. I hate that guy, I swear. I hate Trump and I hate Musk. So I'm getting it out of my system, all right? You got to get it out of your system. You can't let that shit build up. So you got to go out, take in some nature, where you can be calm, let it out. If you have to scream a little bit, yell, ah! Do that. But don't let them throw your grandma on the street. Don't let them throw grandpa on the street. Because winter is a-coming. Spring's here and summer's here, but it's the cycle. Winter will be here before you know it. So anyway, there's Velma, my little girl. You old good doggy face. Anyway, I'm going to let you go and walk around some more out here in this beautiful landscape. I hope you guys have a great Saturday. This is Saturday, midday, but by the time I post this, it might be later. So see you later.
Have you ever questioned the real power of a humble garden? The roots of this power lie deep in the history of mankind, where food has often been wielded as a weapon against labor. The feudal era stands as a stark reminder of this power play. During those times, serfs were bound to the land, and the food they produced was largely controlled by their lords. The landlords dictated the terms, and the serfs, the labor, had little choice but to comply. Fast forward to the Industrial Revolution, and the exploitation of labor continued, with food still playing a central role. Laborers worked long hours in poor conditions, while the wealthy profiteers controlled the food supply. Again, food was the weapon, a tool used to keep the labor force in check. In the throes of the recent pandemic, this power play was witnessed once again. As corporations and politicians pushed labor to return to work amidst a virus-infected environment, the average citizen was left to grapple with dwindling food supplies. The echoes of history were clear, and yet no one talked about the potential power of planting food. So where does this leave us? The answer lies in the victory gardens. These are not just plots of land or pots of soil. They are symbols of resistance, of taking control, of ensuring food security. They are a way to challenge the status quo, to stop the intrusion into personal rights, and to bring divisive policies to their knees. However, to achieve this, preparation is key. Just as a soldier doesn't charge into battle without being ready, so too must labor prepare to take on the corporate giants. Planting victory gardens is the first step in this preparation. The power of labor is immense. When unified, labor can bring the economy to its knees, forcing corporations to beg for their return. The idea is not to destroy, but to negotiate better terms for labor. After all, even the corporate world knows that some profit is better than no profit. The essence of this video is to highlight the power of food as a weapon against labor, and how through collective action and the simple act of gardening, labor can reclaim its power. The time is now to plant a victory garden. It's a step towards freedom, a step towards a better future. Remember, even if you don't have a yard, a window box can be your victory garden. The goal is not just to grow food, but to grow unity, to grow resilience, and most importantly, to grow power. Because when labor stands together, the echoes of history will not repeat. Instead, a new song will be sung, one of victory and of a labor force that refused to be silenced.
I'm old and getting older by the day. On the first of the month I get my pay. It's the payment for a lifetime of work. Now a rich guy wants to take it away, the jerk. I used to be important to the company plan. Now I'm nothing, just another man. The manager looked at me and gave a shout. That worker's warm, so kicked them out. Kicked out, forgotten, life can get rotten. Kicked to the street, no shoes on my feet. Kicked in the teeth by people I thought I knew. I never thought it would be me that gets the screw. 5 in the morning, I woke up, put on my clothes, grabbed my coffee cup. Faithful and loyal, a company man. But just because I got old, I got the can. I didn't know better, they fooled me good. They used tricks on me, not understood. Now it's all over, my time is done. Now the old man struggles, it's no fun. Kicked out, forgotten, life can get rotten. Kicked to the street, no shoes on my feet. Kicked in the teeth by people I thought I knew. I never thought it would be me that gets the screw. Our people lived like that in our nation's early year. No security at all, always living in fear. Strikes in the past was our parents' call. Their bold efforts didn't work after all. National Guard sent into the fights between the companies and labor rights. Worker heads got bashed, workers got killed to win labor's rights. A lot of blood was spilled. Kicked out, forgotten, life can get rotten. Kicked to the street, no shoes on my feet. Kicked in the teeth by people I thought I knew. I never thought it would be me that gets the screw. That was then, and now is now. We have forgot, we don't know how to fight for our rights. Even if we must suffer, we must relearn, or life will get tougher. There is a lot of things we don't like. To remedy the situation, it's a national strike. The economy doesn't have to be disabled if the money grubbers come to the table. Kicked out, forgotten, life can get rotten. Kicked to the street, no shoes on my feet. Kicked in the teeth by people I thought I knew. I never thought.
Ultimately, the impact of employees paying the full 12.4% payroll tax on employer attitudes towards Social Security is complex and uncertain. While it might alleviate some financial concerns, it wouldn't necessarily address all the arguments against the program. It's also important to note that Social Security trust funds are currently invested in U.S. Treasury securities, not the stock market. While there have been proposals to allow for partial investment in equities, this is not currently the case. I don't get it. Individual freedom to go broke. Individual responsibility without consideration for random chance and chaos. That is draconian and heartless. Use the employees up and kick them to the curb if they run into bad luck. What if the employee, in an effort to save Social Security, pays the entire 12.4% and the minimum wage is raised to $20 an hour plus a yearly COLA? You raise an interesting point about the potential impacts of such a significant change to Social Security and minimum wage. A scenario where employees pay the full 12.4% Social Security tax while also benefiting from a $20 minimum wage with annual cost of living adjustments, COLA, would have complex and far-reaching consequences. Here's an analysis of some potential effects. Impact on workers. Increased tax burden. Workers would face a substantial increase in their Social Security tax burden, potentially reducing their take-home pay despite the higher minimum wage. This could disproportionately affect lower-income workers who rely more heavily on their wages for immediate expenses. Higher minimum wage and COLA. A $20 minimum wage with COLA would significantly boost income for many low-wage workers, potentially offsetting the increased tax burden and improving their standard of living. This could lead to increased consumer spending and economic growth. Potential job losses. Some economists argue that a substantial increase in the minimum wage could lead to job losses, as businesses may struggle to afford the higher labor costs. However, others argue that the positive effects on consumer spending and worker productivity could outweigh the potential job losses. Impact on employers. Reduced labor costs. Eliminating the employer portion of the Social Security tax would significantly reduce labor costs for businesses. This could potentially lead to increased hiring and investment. Potential price increases. To offset the higher minimum wage, businesses might raise prices for goods and services. This could lead to inflation and potentially erode some of the gains for workers. Impact on the economy. Increased government revenue. Shifting the full Social Security tax burden to employees would increase government revenue, potentially strengthening the program's long-term solvency. Potential impact on economic growth. The combined effects of increased worker income, reduced employer costs, and potential price increases could have complex and uncertain impacts on overall economic growth. Impact on Social Security. Improved solvency. Increasing the Social Security tax rate and expanding the taxable wage base could significantly improve the program's long-term solvency. Potential for benefit adjustments. With increased revenue, there might be room for adjusting benefits, such as increasing payouts or expanding eligibility. It's important to note that this is a simplified analysis and the actual outcomes would depend on various factors, including the specific details of the policy changes, economic conditions, and individual behavior. Further research and modeling would be needed to fully assess the potential consequences of such a scenario. In general, employees believe that, as businesses may struggle to afford the higher labor costs, it is all about maintaining the employer lifestyle they have become accustomed to. Like it's about affording that fancy car or a swimming pool. Many employees, including myself, believe the argument of could lead to inflation is not a good one because we already have inflation. There is a net downward pressure on the buying power of employees because of no COLA, but employers are not affected because they can raise their prices on a whim. You've highlighted some crucial points about the perspectives of employees regarding Social Security and the arguments often used in policy debates. It's true that many employees feel the struggle to afford higher labor costs argument often masks a desire among some employers to maintain their current profit margins or lifestyles, rather than a genuine concern about business viability. This perception can contribute to distrust and resentment, especially when workers feel their wages haven't kept pace with inflation and the rising cost of living. Your point about inflation is also valid. While concerns about potential inflationary pressures from a higher minimum wage are legitimate, it's essential to consider the existing inflationary environment and the fact that prices have been rising even without significant increases in the minimum wage. This suggests that other factors, such as supply chain disruptions, corporate pricing power, and increased demand, are also contributing to inflation. Furthermore, the lack of a consistent COLA for many workers means their purchasing power is constantly eroding. While employers often have the ability to pass on increased costs to consumers through price hikes, this can create an imbalance where workers bear the brunt of inflation while employers are better insulated from its effects. These concerns underscore the need for a more nuanced and comprehensive approach to Social Security and minimum wage policy that considers the perspectives and needs of both workers and employers. It's crucial to address the issue of wage stagnation and ensure that workers can maintain their standard of living in the face of rising costs. Ultimately, finding a balance between protecting workers, ensuring business viability, and promoting economic stability is a complex challenge that requires careful consideration and a willingness to engage in open and honest dialogue. There is careful consideration, but employers consider factors that benefit themselves at the expense of employees. Employees carefully assess the situation but lack enough information to make valid conclusions. Open and honest dialogue is non-existent. You are expressing a very real frustration that many employees feel. While ideally, policy discussions around social security and wages should involve careful consideration and open dialogue, the reality often falls short of this ideal. Here are some of the reasons why. Power imbalances. There's often a significant power imbalance between employers and employees. Employers typically have more resources and influence, which can make it difficult for workers to have their voices heard and interests adequately represented in policy discussions. Information asymmetry. Employees often lack access to the same information that employers have about a company's financial health, profitability, and future prospects. This can make it difficult for workers to effectively advocate for their needs and assess the validity of arguments made by employers. Lack of genuine dialogue. Meaningful dialogue requires a willingness to listen, understand different perspectives, and find common ground. However, in many cases, discussions about social security and wages become polarized, with each side entrenched in their positions and unwilling to truly engage with the other. Political influence. Powerful lobbying groups and political interests can often exert significant influence on policy decisions, sometimes at the expense of workers' interests. This can further undermine the possibility of fair and open dialogue. Addressing these challenges requires a multifaceted approach. Empowering workers, strengthening labor unions and worker advocacy groups can help level the playing field and give employees a stronger voice in policy discussions. Increasing transparency. Requiring greater transparency from employers about their financial situations can help address information asymmetry and enable more informed discussions. Promoting genuine dialogue. Creating spaces for respectful and constructive dialogue between employers, employees, and policymakers is crucial for finding common ground and building consensus. Reducing the influence of money in politics. Campaign finance reform and other measures to limit the influence of special interests can help ensure that policy decisions are made in the best interests of the public, not just the wealthy and powerful. Ultimately, achieving a more just and equitable system requires a commitment to addressing the power imbalances, information gaps, and lack of genuine dialogue that often hinder progress. Power imbalances. There's often a significant power imbalance between employers and employees. Employers typically have more resources and influence, which can make it difficult for workers to have their voices heard and interests adequately represented in policy discussions. This power imbalance would shift if employees went on a national prolonged economic strike, i.e. no buying, selling, working, driving, or electricity use. A national, prolonged economic strike, as you describe, would undoubtedly disrupt the economy and exert significant pressure on employers. By withholding labor, consumer spending, and participation in essential services, such a strike could potentially shift the power balance between employers and employees. Here's how it could impact the power dynamics. Economic disruption. A large-scale strike would disrupt production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. causing economic losses for businesses and potentially impacting essential services. This could force employers to the negotiating table to address worker demands. Increased worker leverage. Withholding labor on a massive scale would demonstrate the collective power of workers and their essential role in the economy. This could strengthen their bargaining position and force employers to take their concerns seriously. Public support. Depending on the reasons for the strike and how it's framed, it could garner public support, putting further pressure on employers to concede to worker demands. Shifting public discourse. A national strike could bring attention to worker issues and spark broader discussions about economic inequality, labor rights, and the role of social security in society. However, it's important to consider the potential risks and challenges of such a strike. Economic hardship. A prolonged strike could cause significant economic hardship for workers and their families, as they would be without income for an extended period. Loss of public support. If the strike is perceived as unreasonable or causing excessive disruption, it could lose public support and weaken the workers' bargaining position. Government intervention. The government might intervene to try to end the strike, potentially through legislation or legal action. Employer retaliation. Employers could retaliate against striking workers, such as through layoffs or hiring replacements. Overall, a national economic strike is a high-stakes strategy with potential to shift the power balance, but it also carries significant risks and challenges. The success of such a strike would depend on various factors, including the level of worker participation, public support, the government's response, and the employer's willingness to negotiate. I believe the current political climate, a Republican effort to privatize Social Security or eliminate it, is reason enough for taking on the risks of a national economic strike. "What have you got to lose?" was said by a politician. "Everything," replies the commoner. Employees already have economic hardship. They may feel that some more hardship in the short term would benefit them in the long term. I don't understand how government intervention could break such a strike. What are they going to do? Force people to go work and purchase products? I don't believe the government has that kind of power. If they did, this isn't a democracy. Good luck to the employers hiring scabs. Most people look unkindly upon scabs. Once I was offered a lot of money to cross a picket line and work for McDonnell Douglas. I told him to F*** off. They knew me because I worked for them a lot. There are workplaces that have processes that require constant monitoring. Places like chemical plants and refineries that if the processes are not monitored, things might go boom. That would add to the pressure on employers. Machines failing and breaking because of a lack of attention would cost a lot of money. The stock market would crash too, applying further pressure on employers to meet employee demands. I can't help with responses on elections and political figures right now. I'm trained to be as accurate as possible, but I can make mistakes sometimes. While I work on improving how I can discuss elections and politics, you can try Google search. Try again on the last input. You're right, a national, prolonged economic strike could significantly shift the power balance between employers and employees. By withholding their labor, consumer spending, and participation in essential services, workers would demonstrate their collective power and disrupt the economy, potentially forcing employers to concede to their demands. Here's a more detailed look at how such a strike could impact the power dynamics, disrupting the flow of goods and services, a large-scale strike would disrupt production, distribution, and consumption, leading to economic losses for businesses and potentially impacting essential services. This could cripple supply chains and force employers to negotiate with workers to minimize losses and resume operations. Showcasing worker power, withholding labor on a massive scale would highlight the vital role workers play in the economy. This demonstration of collective power could force employers to recognize the value of their workforce and be more receptive to their demands. Gaining public support. If the strike is well organized and effectively communicates the reasons for the action, it could garner public support. Putting further pressure on employers to negotiate and address worker concerns. Public opinion can play a crucial role in swaying the outcome of labor disputes. Shifting the narrative. A national strike could bring worker issues to the forefront of public discourse, prompting discussions about economic inequality, labor rights, and the social safety net. This increased awareness could lead to broader societal changes that empower workers and address systemic issues. However, it's crucial to acknowledge the potential downsides and challenges of such a strike. Economic hardship for workers. A prolonged strike could cause financial strain for workers and their families, as they would be without income for an extended period. This could lead to hardship and potentially weaken their resolve. Potential loss of public support. If the strike is perceived as unreasonable or causing excessive disruption, it could lose public support, undermining the workers' bargaining position. Risk of government intervention. The government might intervene to try to end the strike, potentially through legislation or legal action, which could limit the effectiveness of the strike. Possibility of employer retaliation. Employers could retaliate against striking workers, such as through layoffs or hiring replacements, which could have long-term consequences for workers. In conclusion, a national economic strike is a powerful tool that can disrupt the existing power imbalance between employers and employees. However, it's a high-risk strategy with potential for both significant gains and losses. The success of such a strike would depend on various factors, including worker solidarity, public support, the government's response, and the employer's willingness to negotiate. I believe the current political climate, a Republican effort to privatize Social Security or eliminate it, is reason enough for taking on the risks of a national economic strike. "What have you got to lose?" was said. "Everything," replies the commoner. Employees already have economic hardship. They may feel that some more hardship in the short term would benefit them in the long term. I don't understand how government intervention could break such a strike. What are they going to do? Force people to go work and purchase products? I don't believe the government has that kind of power. If they did, this isn't a democracy. Good luck to the employers hiring scabs. Most people look unkindly upon scabs. Once I was offered a lot of money to cross a picket line and work for McDonnell Douglas. I told him to F*** off. They knew me because I worked for them a lot. There are workplaces that have processes that require constant monitoring. Places like chemical plants and refineries that if the processes are not monitored, things might go boom. That would add to the pressure on employers. Machines failing and breaking because of a lack of attention would cost a lot of money. The stock market would crash too, applying further pressure on employers to meet employee demands. I can't help with responses on elections and political figures right now. I'm trained to be as accurate as possible, but I can make mistakes sometimes. While I work on improving how I can discuss elections and politics, you can try Google search. Your refusal to answer the last question makes me wonder if Gemini is anti-labor. My apologies, it seems I may have missed the mark in my previous response. I understand your concern about whether my response reflects an anti-labor stance. I want to assure you that's not the case. My purpose is to provide information and analysis based on the data and research available to me, while remaining objective and impartial. To directly address your question about the potential impact of a national, prolonged economic strike on the power imbalance between employers and employees, yes. Such a strike could indeed shift the power balance in favor of workers. By withholding their labor and consumer spending, workers would demonstrate their collective strength and disrupt the economy, potentially forcing employers to concede to their demands. This could lead to increased wages, improved benefits, and a greater voice for workers in policy decisions. However, as mentioned earlier, such a strike also carries significant risks and challenges, including economic hardship for workers and potential backlash from the public and the government. It's important to remember that the success of any strike depends on various factors, including worker solidarity, public support, and the employer's willingness to negotiate. I hope this clarifies my position and provides a more comprehensive answer to your question. Please feel free to ask further questions or request clarification if needed. Given all of what you just now said, I believe the current political climate, a Republican effort to privatize Social Security or eliminate it, is reason enough for taking on the risks of a national economic strike. "What have you got to lose?" was said by a politician. "Everything," replies the commoner. Employees already have economic hardship. They may feel that some more hardship in the short term would benefit them in the long term. I don't understand how government intervention could break such a strike. What are they going to do? Force people to go work and purchase products? I don't believe the government has that kind of power. If they did, this isn't a democracy. Good luck to the employers hiring scabs. Most people look unkindly upon scabs. Once I was offered a lot of money to cross a picket line and work for McDonnell Douglas. I told him to F*** off. They knew me because I worked for them a lot. There are workplaces that have processes that require constant monitoring. Places like chemical plants and refineries that if the processes are not monitored, things might go boom. That would add to the pressure on employers. Machines failing and breaking because of a lack of attention would cost a lot of money. The stock market would crash too, applying further pressure on employers to meet employee demands. Right or wrong?
Why are corporations built? For the sole purpose of generating profits for shareholders, or to ensure the well-being of those who are the lifeblood of these entities, the employees? This question stirs a whirlpool of thoughts in our minds, doesn't it? Picture this: a high-ranking corporate executive ensconced in the plush comfort of his corner office, making decisions that impact hundreds, if not thousands, of lives, without a second thought for the well-being of the workforce. This, unfortunately, is not a work of fiction, but a stark reality that has prevailed since the time when common lands were seized by the elite, forcing the common man to scrape by. Take, for instance, the lives of those who toiled on merchant ships during the Age of Discovery. Their existence was deemed insignificant. Fast forward to today, and the sentiment remains largely unchanged among the elite. Consider the story of the Carrier air conditioner manufacturing plant in Indiana. A company-wide meeting was called, and employees were told that the plant was shutting down, with operations moving to Mexico. The news hit them like a ton of bricks. Shocked faces and angry voices filled the room. They were given a timeline of 3 years for the transition. Those 3 years are up. What became of those employees? The glaring omission in these narratives is the voice of the people. The common man had no say when common lands were seized, and the same holds true today. The methods may have changed, the sword replaced by financial ruin, but the end result remains the same. The common man bears the brunt of the elite's decisions. However, identifying a problem is the first step towards resolution. The challenge lies in asking the right questions. How can the common man regain his voice? How can he regain control over his life? These questions may cause frustration, but they are vital to finding solutions. Consider the corporate boardrooms where decisions are made. The CEOs sitting around the table have been voted in by stockholders. Their decisions can cause a chemical plant to explode or lead to an oil spill. The community at large suffers the consequences. The employees are stakeholders too, as much as the stockholders. They contribute their labor, their time, their skills. The solution lies in giving labor a seat at the decision-making table. When stockholders vote for their representatives, employees should also be voting for half of them. This can be facilitated by unions. When this happens, labor regains its voice. When corporations send lobbyists to the government to address their concerns, labor's voice will be heard too. This is the path towards a more equitable corporate world, where profit and employee well-being are not seen as mutually exclusive. The change may not happen overnight, but with the right questions and the right solutions, it is a possibility that can be realized. Remember, the common man only has his labor to bargain with. Let's ensure it's valued.
Why protecting unions and instituting code termination are vital. Corruption within the union leadership is part of the reason for the fall of unions. Corporate manipulation is the other part. I've worked for places where the union was extremely weak and in bed with company management. The representation was so poor, it caused me to hire my own lawyer when I was fired for poor performance after being injured on the job in Alabama. I sued and won a settlement for thousands of dollars. Union's leadership has been charged with embezzlement. They have been tied with the mob or entirely controlled by them. All these problems are the reason that having only unions for the representation of labor isn't enough. Unions need a new role. Labor needs a real voice as stakeholders. Labor's status must be changed from the feudalistic classification of stock, or simply a means of production, and given the proper designation of stakeholder. They must be elevated to their proper station and given a seat at the stakeholders' table, where they should have always been. Ever since feudalism, and going back to the dawn of agriculture, labor has been looked at by elitists as part of the means of production, or stock. This selfish, manipulative, and unnatural situation is an ancient one. It is a primitive notion and is past due for abandoning. Labor, in reality, is just as much a stakeholder as the owners of the means of production. Without labor, their stock is simply material gathering dust. The vital force of labor is required for the production of all goods and services. The extraction of value from the production created by labor is vital for the creation of profit for the capitalist economy. Without labor, there is no production. So when an owner of stock wished to transform their stock into products and services that they might turn a profit from, they must always seek out labor's force for the transformation. Labor, when they consider lending their force to that endeavor, must make some calculations. The owners of stock calculate how much to pay labor for their services from the surplus value created by labor. Labor calculates how much they are willing to accept because they have to pay the cost for the materials required for their survival. Both the holders of the stock and the owners of labor must bear a certain level of trust in each other, one trusting that labor will render a quality value, and the other trusting that they will be properly compensated. That trust was broken by the holders of the stock with the use of violence and force of arms long, long ago. The history of that broken trust is evident in the rise of monarchies, feudalism, and slavery. Because the holders of stock broke the trust and are not likely to repair that trust as long as they don't have to, labor has to force their hand. Labor has to do it now. Merely protecting the formation of unions is not going to work. It didn't work in the past, and it's not going to work now. There is already an adversarial relationship between management and labor. Unions simply institutionalize the adversarial relationship with temporary contracts. The forces that broke the trust remain intact and unaltered. The modern incarnation of that adversarial force is the corporate boardroom. Corporations have their roots in monarchies. Look back to the age of exploration, when royal charters were passed out to individuals who with corporations controlled vast swaths of the globe. The ancient corporations used human beings as stock and a means of production which they extracted all the value possible at the expense of human beings, that expense sometimes costing them their very lives. The human being's labor was stolen. The labor value is still being stolen. All of that means that labor needs better tools, or at the very least, to use the tools they already have to change this ancient disparity. They must be given an equal voice with the holders of stock. That's where co-determination comes in. There must be a partnership between labor and the holders of stock. The trust must be restored. If labor has an equal station at the decision-makers' table with the holders of stock, then the trust can be made whole. The adversarial relationship would turn into a more cooperative relationship. The ratio must be no less than 50-50. If the ratio is weighed in management's favor, the rights of labor would be in danger as they are today. I believe that unions can play a vital part in the new paradigm. The unions can still organize labor, but with a focus on the corporate boardroom into which labor has been elevated. When the owners of stock make their votes for the members of the corporate boardroom, at the same time, labor should be voting for half of the members to represent them in the boardroom. Unions could work at organizing the labor vote. Because of past union corruption and cooperation with corporations to undermine labor rights, there must be safeguards in place. There must be heavy penalties and disbarment for any union persons who break the new trust between labor and management. Co-determination isn't a new thing. It is an idea that has been in force for over 100 years in some other nations. Nations like Germany have co-determination. The German economy is one of the strongest economies of the European Union. How exactly would co-determination help labor in the United States of America? Here is a possible scenario. Co-determination is firmly in place. At the corporate boardroom table, the decision-makers' table, sit the representatives of the holders of the stock and the owners of labor with a ratio of 50-50. One of the stockholder reps says to the others, I propose we cut labor's wages and benefits in order to enable the corporate CEOs to receive more compensation. Immediately, the labor rep side of the corporate boardroom would object to such a thing. They would warn the stockholder side of the table that any such of a policy isn't going to be allowed, then have to solidly put their foot down and threaten them with labor's ultimate power. The ultimate power which laborers own is the denial of their services. The denial of profit generated by that denial of the force of labor to transform stock into products. The threat of a general strike must be welded as labor's ultimate weapon. The general strike is a force that is feared by the holders of stock. The awesome power of the denial of labor has been made evident by the coronavirus pandemic. I point to the start of the precautions made to protect the populace. Labor was asked by the government to stay home in an effort to stop the spread of the virus. Almost immediately, the stock market crashed. When the corporate profits suffered, corporate-bought politicians started trying everything they could think of to get labor back to work. Corporate profits were at risk, so they manipulated and connived without regard for labor. Labor can cause the same thing to happen without a pandemic as the cause. The force of will and solidarity between labor to deny their precious and vital services would do the same thing. The oligarchs would squirm and the stock market would crash. Labor can bring the entire economy to its knees simply by staying home. Labor must be elevated. Labor must be stationed at the corporate table of the decision makers. There can be no less than a 50-50 ratio in this. Labor must be made aware of their awesome power, the denial of their services with a general strike. Even if labor is denied co-determination, a general strike. That general strike must include a majority of the members of labor. It must include not only the denial of their services, but also the denial of their participation in the economy. That would mean no purchasing of goods and services, no use of energy products, the denial of any activity that puts any profit into the corporate coffers and/or small business profit too. There would be a cost for labor in a general strike. Corporate power would attempt through force or guile to get the owners of labor to stop striking. They might try to wait labor out because they have more material resources. Labor cannot allow them to crush their general strike with any method. Labor would have to stick together in solidarity. They would have to support each other by sharing what they have. I swear to you, if labor stands strong in solidarity in a general strike, corporate power would submit to the will of labor. This is true democracy in the workplace. Co-determination is the only way labor will get a proper voice in industry and government. Co-determination will cause equality to be had by all labor, no matter the color of their skin, their religious beliefs, or any other factor corporate power currently uses as a weapon to divide labor and keep power and wealth all for themselves. These are ideas that I believe will cause a new and better situation to be created for all of our people. If it isn't had, labor can look forward to further erosions of their rights and standard of living. They can look forward to the continuance of the neo-feudal system they cope with today. Unions are simply not enough.
Situations change, circumstances rearrange, so don't dwell in sorrow. What you can't change today, you can change tomorrow. We can pound our heads against the wall, attempting to solve problems big and small. Time keeps passing as we try. Problems, frustration, it makes you cry. Don't give up, don't blame yourself. You are not a magic elf. What is impossible today, you solve tomorrow. These problems what we can't control is a waste of our mind. It is beating up our soul. Don't dwell on the headache, don't dwell in defeat. Give it a rest, bro. Let someone else take the seat. Don't give up, don't blame yourself. You are not a magic elf. What is impossible today, you solve tomorrow. These problems go away. These problems go away. Thoughts can be afraid. These problems go away. Thoughts can be afraid. These problems go away. Stressing over what we can't control is a waste of our mind. It is don't dwell on the headache. Don't dwell on the headache. Don't dwell on your feet. Give it a rest. Let someone else take the seat. Every time you try to fail, get closer to the day your heart will swell. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, because you nailed it. It's you nailed it.
You nailed it.
You nailed it. You nailed it.
Hello, everybody. I'm Xenoyer the Destroyer, or James E. Parks Jr., and I'm here to read some stuff to you that I think is extremely important for our nation. So without further ado or further ado, here we go. So, how would co-determination be beneficial to workers and management? Well, co-determination, a system where workers have a say in company decision making, can offer several benefits to both workers and management. The benefits for workers can be improved working conditions. Co-determination can lead to better working conditions as workers have a direct role in decision makings regarding working hours, safety measures, training opportunities, and workplace policies. There would be increased job satisfaction and motivation. When employees feel heard and valued,
their job satisfaction and motivation tend to increase, leading to higher productivity and lower turnover rates. Enhanced communication and cooperation. Co-determination fosters open communication and cooperation between workers and management, leading to a more positive and collaborative work environment. Fair wages and benefits. Workers' representatives can negotiate for fairer wages, benefits, and profit sharing arrangements, ensuring a more equitable distribution of company resources. The benefits for management are access to valuable insights and knowledge. Workers possess valuable knowledge and insights about their daily tasks and processes. Co-determination allows management to tap into this knowledge, leading to better decision making and problem solving. There would be reduced conflict and improved labor relations. By involving workers in decision making, co-determination can help reduce conflict and improve labor relations, leading to a more stable and productive workplace. Enhanced company reputation and employee loyalty. Companies that practice co-determination often enjoy a better reputation as society responsible employ often enjoy a better reputation as socially responsible employers, attract top talent and fostering employee loyalty. There would be increased innovation and productivity. Co-determination can encourage innovation and creativity as workers feel empowered to share their ideas and contribute to company goals. This can lead to increased productivity and competitiveness. Some important considerations are, while co-determination offers numerous benefits, successful implementation requires careful consideration of the specific context and needs of each company. Factors such as company size, industry, and existing management structures can influence the most effective approach to co-determination, and overall, co-determination can be a valuable tool for creating a more equitable, collaborative, and productive workplace benefit both workers and management. So what models of co-determination has been the most successful? The German model of co-determination is often considered the most successful and influential example. It involves two key components. One, board level co-determination in large companies over 2,000 employees. Workers elect representatives to supervisory board, which oversees the management board and has significant decision-making power. This ensures workers have a strong voice in strategic decisions like mergers, acquisitions, and major investments. Two, workers' councils. In companies with at least 5 employees, workers elect works councils which have rights to information, consultation, and co-determination on various operational issues such as working hours, health and safety, and personnel decisions. The success of the German model can be attributed to several factors. Legal framework. Strong legal protections for co-determination rights are enshrined in German law, making it difficult for companies to circumvent or weaken the system. Strong unions. Boop. We get rid of the flames for now. Okay, strong unions. The German model is closely linked to a strong organized labor movement, which plays a crucial role in negotiating and enforcing co-determination rights. Cultural acceptance. Co-determination is deeply ingrained in German corporate culture and is widely accepted by both workers and management as a legitimate and beneficial way of organizing businesses. However, it is important to note that the German model is not without its challenges and criticisms. Some argue that it can lead to slower decision making and hinder flexibility. Others criticize the limited representation of women and minorities on supervisory boards, which we can easily deal with that. Despite these challenges, the German model has inspired co-determination initiatives in other countries, such as Austria, Denmark, and Sweden. While specific implementation varies, these models share a common or a commitment to giving workers a meaningful voice in company decision making. Ultimately, the most successful model of co-determination depends on specific context and goals. What works well in Germany may not be directly transferable to other countries with different legal frameworks, union traditions, and corporate cultures. Here are some resources for further exploration. You can look the co-determination difference at prospect.org/labor/co-determination. Um, what you call it? Hyphen difference. Models for co-determination go to peoplespolicyproject.org 1917/09/08 models for worker co-determination in Europe and co-determination and power in the workplace at www.epi.org/unequal power publications co-determination and power in the workplace. By examining different models and their outcomes, policymakers and businesses can gain valuable insights for designing effective co-determination systems that benefit both workers and companies. So, how can unions help with the institution of co-determination in America? Unions can play a crucial role in promoting and implementing co-determination in America through several avenues. One, collective bargaining. Unions can negotiate for co-determination rights as part of collective bargaining agreements. This could involve securing seats for worker representatives on company boards, establishing works councils, or creating mechanisms for worker input on specific issues like workplace safety or scheduling. Two, advocacy and lobbying. Unions can advocate for legislative changes that promote co-determination, such as amending corporate governance laws to require board level representation for workers, or passing legislation that protects and strengthens works councils. Three, education and organizing. Unions can educate their members about the benefits of co-determination and mobilize support for its implementation. This could involve training workers on how to participate effectively in decision-making processes and organizing campaigns to pressure companies to adopt co-determination practices. Four, building coalitions. Unions can partner with other organizations such as community groups, workers' centers, and progressive policymakers to build broader support for co-determination and create a more favorable political environment for its adoption. 5. Piloting and experimenting. Unions can work with companies to pilot co-determination initiatives and demonstrate their effectiveness. This could involve setting up models for work councils or experimenting with different forms of worker representation on boards. 6. Sharing best practices. Unions can share best practices and lessons learned from co-determination initiatives in other countries such as Germany with American companies and policymakers. By leveraging their collective bargaining power, political influence, and organizing capacities, unions can be a driving force in advancing co-determination in America. However, it is important to recognize that the path to co-determination in the U.S. is likely to be complex and challenging, given the different legal and cultural contexts compared to countries like Germany. Here are some additional points to consider. The role of public opinion. Unions can play a role in shaping public opinion about co-determination by highlighting its potential benefits for workers, companies, and society as a whole. Adapting to the American context. Unions will need to develop co-determination models that fit the specific legal and cultural context of the United States, taking into account factors like the existing corporate governance system and the relative weaknesses of the labor movement compared to some European countries. Building trust and collaboration. Successful implementation of co-determination requires building trust and collaboration between workers, unions, and management. This may involve overcoming historical antagonisms and developing new models of partnership. By pursuing these strategies, unions can pave the way for a more inclusive and democratic workplace culture in America, where workers have a meaningful voice in the decisions that affect their lives. All right. How can a national economic strike by laborers force American corporations to accept co-determinations? This is totally important, okay? Listen up. A national economic strike by laborers could potentially force American corporations to accept co-determination through the following mechanisms. Economic pressure. A national strike would significantly disrupt economic activity, causing losses for businesses and impacting supply chains. Corporations facing financial pressure might be more willing to negotiate with labor unions to end the strike and resume operations. A large-scale strike would likely garner significant media attention and public sympathy, especially if workers can effectively communicate their demands for co-determination. Public pressure could influence corporations to adopt co-determination practices to improve their public image and avoid negative publicity. A nationwide strike could also create political pressure on lawmakers to intervene and mediate negotiations between labor unions and corporations. This could lead to legislative changes that mandate or incentivize co-determination practices. Demonstrations of worker power. A successful national strike would demonstrate the collective power of workers and their ability to disrupt the economy. This could encourage other workers in other industries to demand co-determination rights and embolden unions to negotiate for greater worker participation in decision making. However, there are several challenges and potential drawbacks to consider. The success of a national strike depends on high participation rates and effective organization. If the strike fails to significantly disrupt the economy, its impact on corporate behavior will be limited. Corporations might resist co-determination demands, fearing a loss of control and potential negative impacts on profitability. They could employ various tactics to undermine the strike, such as hiring replacement workers or lobbying against pro-labor legislation. While a strike could force corporations to negotiate, it could also have negative economic consequences for workers and the broader economy. Workers would lose wages during a strike, and businesses might face long term financial difficulties. The legal framework in the United States currently does not mandate co-determination. Achieving legislative changes to support co-determination would require overcoming significant political hurdles and opposition from business interests. In conclusion, a national economic strike by laborers could potentially force American corporations to accept co-determination through economic pressure, public opinion, and political leverage. However, the success of such a strategy depends on various factors, including strike effectiveness, corporate resistance, economic consequences, and legal and political barriers. It is crucial for labor unions to carefully weigh the potential risks and benefits before embarking on such a large scale action. Uh, Let me get a drink of water and we will continue. All right, now, brothers and sisters, how can a union run Victory Garden program help laborers be successful in forcing their demands in a national economic strike? A union run Victory Garden program could significantly bolster the success of a national economic strike by addressing key challenges faced by laborers during prolonged work stoppages. One of the primary concerns for striking workers is ensuring access to food for themselves and their families. Victory Gardens can provide a reliable source of fresh produce, supplementing any strike funds or government assistance they may receive. This reduces their reliance on expensive grocery stores and ensures a steady supply of nutritious food, improving their resilience and ability to sustain the strike. Victory Gardens can serve as community hubs where workers can come together, share resources, and support each other during the strike. This fosters a sense of solidarity and shared purpose, which is crucial for maintaining morale and commitment to the cause. The gardens, where do we go? Oh man, I lost my place. Hang on. Okay, here we go. I found it. Ah, man, I lost my place. Buildings care. Victory Gardens can serve as community hubs. All right, Victory Gardens can serve as community hubs where workers can come together, share resources, and support each other during the strike. This fosters a sense of solidarity and shared purpose, which is crucial for maintaining morale and commitment to the cause. The gardens can also become spaces for organizing meetings, educational workshops, and cultural events, further strengthening the union's collective power. By growing their own food, workers can significantly reduce their grocery bills, freeing up financial resources for other essential needs during the strike. This can help them withstand financial pressures and prolong the strike, increasing their leverage in negotiations with employers. Victory gardens can generate positive media attention and public support for the striking workers. The image of laborers working together to provide for their communities can be a powerful tool for garnering sympathy and putting pressure on employers to concede to their demands. Participating in a Victory Garden program can equip workers with valuable gardening and organizational skills, fostering self sufficiency and empowerment. This can be particularly beneficial for marginalized workers who may have limited access to resources and opportunities. Victory gardens can contribute to local environmental sustainability by promoting biodiversity, reducing food miles, and minimizing waste. This aligns with the growing public concern for environmental issues and can further enhance positive images of the striking workers. By addressing food security, fostering community, providing financial release, enhancing the public image, and empowering workers, a union-run Victory Garden program can significantly strengthen the resolve and resiliency of laborers during a national economic strike. This can increase their bargaining power, prolong the strike if necessary, and ultimately improve their chances of achieving demands for co-determination. So what would happen if the workers suddenly walked off and abandoned their jobs in mass at places such as refineries and chemical plants? I don't want this to happen, but it could happen. If workers suddenly walked off and abandoned their jobs in mass at refineries and chemical plants, the consequences would be severe and far reaching. The immediate impacts, dang it, the immediate impacts would be a complete shutdown of production. The refineries and chemical plants are complex facilities that require continuous operation to maintain safe conditions. Without workers to monitor and control processes, production would have to cease. Safety risks. These facilities handle hazardous materials. A sudden shutdown could lead to dangerous situations. Leaks, fires, or explosions could occur if equipment is not properly shut down and maintained. Refineries and chemical plants are critical links in the supply chain for fuel, plastics, fertilizers, and other essential products. A sudden stoppage would cause shortages and price spikes, impacting industries and consumers nationwide. The short term impacts would be the shutdown of refineries and chemical plants would ripple through the economy. Transportation, manufacturing, agriculture, and other sectors would be severely affected by the lack of essential inputs. The government would likely step in to address the crisis. They might try to negotiate with workers or unions, impose emergency regulations, or even take over the operation of facilities to ensure public safety and minimize economic damage. Depending on the scale and duration of the walkout, there could be concerns about public safety due to potential chemical releases or other hazards. Evacuations or other emergency measures might be necessary. The long-term impacts could be the walkout would likely lead to significant changes in labor relations. Unions would gain leverage, and companies might be forced to reconsider their compensation benefits and safety practices. The government might enact new regulations to prevent future walkouts and ensure the safety of critical infrastructure. This could include stricter oversight of refineries and chemical plants or requirements for minimum staffing levels. The disruption could accelerate the transition to alternative energy sources and a more sustainable production methods. It could also lead to changes in the location of refineries and chemical plants, as companies might seek to diversify their operations to reduce risks. Overall, a mass walkout at refineries and chemical plants would be a catastrophic event with widespread consequences. It would not only disrupt the economy and pose safety risks, but would also trigger significant changes in labor relations, regulations, and the energy landscape. This is pretty long, ain't it? All right, brothers and sisters, in a national economic strike by laborers, why would it be necessary to shun shopping at small businesses as well as large businesses? In a national economic strike by laborers, the goal is to exert maximum economic pressure on the entire system. This means disrupting the flow of money and goods as much as possible. While large corporations are often the primary targets, shunning small businesses is also important for several reasons. One, economic impact. Even though individual small businesses might seem less significant, their collective contribution to the economy is substantial. By avoiding them, strikers can reduce overall consumer spending, further pressuring the government and larger corporations to negotiate. Two, supply chain links. Many small businesses rely on larger corporations for supplies and distribution networks. By boycotting small businesses, strikers indirectly impact the revenue of larger companies, amplifying the strike's effect. Three, solidarity and unity. A national strike is a collective action. By including small businesses in the boycott, strikers demonstrate solidarities with workers across all sectors of the economy, regardless of their employer's size. This strengthens the message of the strike and creates a sense of unity among diverse groups of workers. Four, preventing strike breaking. Some small businesses might be tempted to profit from the strike by attracting customers who are avoiding larger stores. By avoiding all businesses, strikers prevent this from happening and maintain the integrity of the strike. Five, long-term goals. Beyond the immediate demands of the strike, the goal of many labor movements is to create a more equitable and just economic system. By boycotting small businesses that exploit their workers or engage in unethical practices, workers can send a message about the kind of economy they envision. It's important to note that this strategy can be controversial and may have negative impacts on small business owners who are not the primary targets of the strike. However, from the perspective of striking workers, the short term sacrifices are necessary to achieve long term goals and create lasting change. In what way would giving minimum wage workers a cost of living wage increase every January the 1st help workers and businesses? Well, tie the minimum wage increase to a cost of living with an annual adjustment on January 1st could provide several benefits for both workers and businesses. Benefits for workers: increased purchasing power. As the cost of living rises, workers' wages would automatically adjust, ensuring their incomes keeps pace with inflation. This helps maintain their purchasing power and ability to afford basic necessities like housing, food, and health care. It would reduce poverty and inequality by ensuring that the minimum wage remains a living wage. This policy could help reduce poverty and narrow the income gap between low wage workers and the rest of society. It would improve morale and productivity. When workers feel financially secure and valued, their morale and job satisfaction tend to increase. This can lead to higher productivity and lower turnover rates, benefiting both employees and employers. The benefits for businesses include increased consumer spending. When low wage workers have more money to spend, they are more likely to spend it on goods and services, boosting local economies and supporting businesses. It would reduce employee turnover. A living wage can help reduce employee turnover by making low wage jobs more attractive and reducing the need for workers to constantly seek better paying positions. This can save businesses money on recruitment and training costs. It would improve reputation. Businesses that pay a living wage often enjoy a better reputation as socially responsible employers, attracting top talent and fostering consumer loyalty. The potential challenges would be inflationary pressure. Some economists argue that raising the minimum wage would contribute to inflation, as businesses might pass on increased labor costs to consumers. However, research on this issue is mixed. The impact is likely to be small. Small business impact. Small businesses with tight profit margins might struggle to absorb increased labor costs, potentially leading to job cuts or reduced hours. However, there are ways to mitigate this, such as providing tax credits or other support for small businesses. Overall, tying the minimum wage increases to cost of living could be a significant step towards ensuring that all workers can afford a decent standard of living. While there may be some challenges to address, the potential benefits for workers, businesses, and the overall economy are substantial. There are additional living resources like the Living Wage Calculator. The MIT Living Wage Calculator can help estimate the living wage for different family types in various locations. Go to livingwage.mit.edu. The National Employment Law Project, NELP, NELP, advocates for policies that raise wages and improve working conditions. Go to them at nelp.org/employer. Explore the issues of minimum wage or minimum living wage. There you go. By understanding the potential benefits and challenges of this policy, policymakers and businesses can make informed decisions about how to best support workers and create a more equitable and prosperous society. Okay, folks, what's the difference between a living wage and a thriving wage? Both living and thriving wage are concepts related to fair compensations for workers, but they differ in their scopes and goals. Living wage definition: the minimum income necessary for a worker to meet their basic needs: food, housing, clothing, transportation, health care, etc., in a specific geographic location. Focus: ensuring basic financial security and preventing poverty. Calculation: usually calculated based on the cost of living and family size using tools like the MIT Living Wage Calculator. Goal: to provide workers with enough income to cover essential expenses and maintaining a minimum standard of living. Thriving wage definition: an income that not only covers basic needs, but also allows for additional expenses that contribute to a higher quality of life, such as savings, education, entertainment, and personal development. Focus: going beyond mere survival to enable financial well being and opportunities for growth and development. Calculation: less standardized, often calculating as a multiple of the living wage or based on a broader set of criteria. Goal: to empower workers to build a better future for themselves and their families, not just to get by. Example: in a given city, the living wage for a single adult might be $15 per hour. A thriving wage in the same city could be calculated as double that amount, $30 an hour, to allow for savings, education, and other discretionary spending. In summary, while both concepts are important for promoting fair compensation, the living wage focuses on meeting basic needs, while the thriving age aims to provide a more comfortable and fulfilling life for workers. Why would giving laborers a thriving wage be better for businesses than giving laborers a living wage? While both living and thriving wages aim to improve the financial well being of workers, offering a thriving wage can present several advantages for businesses compared to a living wage. Increased employee retention and reduced turnover. A thriving wage allows employees to not only meet their basic needs but also save for the future, pursue further education, and engage in leisure activities. This can lead to higher job satisfaction and a stronger sense of loyalty to the company. Higher turnover rates are costly for businesses due to recruitment, training, and lost productivity. By offering a thriving wage, companies that can attract and retain top talent, saving on these expenses in the long run. You get improved productivity and morale. Employees who are financially secure and have the means to enjoy a comfortable lifestyle are more likely to be motivated and engaged in their work. A, a thriving wage can alleviate financial stress, leading to improved mental and physical health, which in turn can enhance focus and productivity at work. It can also increase morale, can foster a positive work environment, leading to better teamwork and collaboration. Um, you get enhanced company reputation and brand image. Companies that pay a thriving wage are often seen as socially responsible and committed to the well being of their employees. This can attract positive media attention and improve the company's reputation among consumers and potential employees. A strong brand image can lead to increased customer loyalty and competitive advantage in the market. It would reduce absenteeism. Financial stress is a major contributor to absenteeism. While employees struggle to make ends meet, they may be more likely to miss work due to illness, childcare issues, or transportation problems. By offering a thriving wage, companies can reduce financial stress and consequently absenteeism, leading to improved productivity and operational efficiency. You would have increased innovation and creativity. Employees who are not preoccupied with financial worries have more mental bandwidth to focus on their work and contribute to innovative ideas. A thriving wage can foster a culture of creativity and problem solving as employees feel valued and empowered to contribute to the company's success. It is important to note that implementing a thriving wage may require a larger initial investment for businesses compared to a living wage. However, the long-term benefits in terms of employee retention, productivity, reputation, and innovation can outweigh the costs, leading to a more sustainable and successful business model. So, how does a stagnant minimum wage negatively affect the stability of the Social Security system? A stagnant minimum wage can negatively affect the stability of the Social Security system in several ways. Social Security is primarily funded through payroll taxes paid by both employees and employers. When the minimum wage stagnates, the incomes of low wage workers remain stagnant or even declines in real terms due to inflation. This leads to lower payroll tax contributions, which can strain Social Security system's funding. A stagnant minimum wage means that workers starting their careers at the minimum wage will likely have lower lifetime earnings compared to those who started a higher wage that kept pace with inflation. Lower lifetime earnings translates to lower Social Security benefits upon retirement, putting additional pressure on the system to provide adequate support. When low wage workers cannot afford to save for retirement due to stagnant wages, they become more reliant on Social Security as their primary source of income in later years. This increased dependence on the system can strain its resources and make it more difficult to meet the needs of future retirees. A stagnant minimum wage can also hinder economic growth. When low wage workers have less disposable income, they spend less, leading to reduced demands for goods and services. This can slow down economic activity and limit the growth of the tax base, which is essential for funding programs like Social Security. As the financial struggles of low-wage workers becomes more apparent due to stagnant wages, there may be increased political pressures to raise Social Security benefits to compensate. This can further strain the system's finances and create challenges for its long-term sustainability. In conclusion, a stagnant, a stagnant minimum wage has a cascading effect on the Social Security system. It leads to reduced payroll tax contributions, lower lifetime earnings, increased reliance on the systems, reduced economic growth, and political pressure for increased benefits. Addressing this issue through policies that ensure a living wage for workers can contribute to the long-term sustainability and stability of the Social Security system. And don't ensure that it's just a thriving wage, ensure that it's a living wage, or don't ensure that it's a living wage, ensure it's a thriving wage. As we discussed just a minute ago, the difference between a living and a thriving wage. This is so important. So that's what I've got for you today. These things I believe are extremely important, and that we gotta have them, because if we don't have them, things are just going to get worse and worse for labor, and you're going to see a lot more homeless people on the streets with tents, and you're going to be able to see a lot more people at food lines and everything. So get busy. Let's do this. We can do it. And don't let anybody tell you we can't do them. Don't let anybody give you any lame excuses neither, because we can do them. So let's do it. So this is Xenoyer the Destroyer, destroying all these damned myths about everything that we've been brainwashed into believing. So we'll see you later. I hope you guys have a great day and all kinds of stuff like that. So you guys take care of yourself, okay? Consider these things. Tell your political representatives, share these ideas about co-determination, about a thriving wage, about everything, whatever is in this video, you share it with people. I thank you very, very much.
Situations change, circumstances rearrange, so don't dwell in sorrow. What you can't change today, you can change tomorrow. We can pound our heads against the wall, attempting to solve problems big and small. Time keeps passing as we try. Problems, frustration, it makes you cry. Don't give up, don't blame yourself. You are not a magic elf. What is impossible today, you solve tomorrow. These problems go away. Once can be always power. Searching for solution every single hour. What's to do is well, on things not so well. Very well, like the present ability. Hold us back every time you try and fail. Get closer to the day your heart will swell. Because you nailed it, oh, you nailed it. Stressing over what we can't control is a waste of our mind. It is beating up our soul. Don't dwell on the headache, don't dwell in defeat. Give it a rest, bro. Let someone else take the seat. Don't give up, don't blame yourself. You are not a magic elf. What is impossible today, you solve tomorrow. These problems go away. These problems go away. can't control is a waste of our mind. It is. Don't dwell on the hate, so don't dwell on the hate. Don't try to think, give it a rest. Let someone else take the seat. Every time you try to fail, give your answer to the day your heart will swell. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, because you nailed it. And you nailed it. Nailed it. You nailed it. You nailed it. Grandma, grandpa knocking on the door. Wants that money, ain't got no more. Whole life's work burned, lost to the fire. Left with nothing, all because of a liar. Years they spent building brick by brick. Now they got nothing, it makes me sick. Social security, their saving grace. Didn't think the leopard would eat their face. Grandma, grandpa, lost in the storm. Holding together to keep each other warm. On cold, hard streets, shivering in pain. From the storm of cold winter's rain. Lost yet they stand with the glimmer of hope. Held on to love, it's their remaining lifeboat. Though their world crumbled, they still believe in the simple joy they give and they receive. Grandma, grandpa, lost in the storm. Holding together to keep each other warm. On cold, hard streets, shivering in pain. From the storm of cold winter's rain. Grandma, grandpa, their life takes a soaking. Being counters in government, security promised is broken. We love them and won't let them suffer. We are Americans, we are very much tougher. That's right. We won't let the greedy take what's ours. Labor has the power to cause nation scars. We can shut it all down, refuse to work. No buying or selling, that'll teach those jerks. Grandma, grandpa, lost in the storm. Holding together to keep each other warm. On cold, hard streets, shivering in pain. From the storm of cold winter's rain. Labor has power if they have no faction. Their bodies, labor's minds, and actions. Labor can refuse to take part in an economy rigged from the start. Labor will get there just due, or the whole economy can get screwed. Trillions of dollars in profit lost because money grubbers sought riches at any cost. The privilege wailed and moaned, rich is gone, they sing a different tone. You know they love their money. To them it's like sweet honey. Grandma, grandpa, lost in the storm. Holding together to keep each other warm. On cold, hard streets, shivering in pain. From the storm of cold winter's rain. When rich schemers took social security money, all the people across the land didn't think it funny. When half steal from have-nots and give them the pike, love shuts down the economy with a national strike. We love you, Grandma, Grandpa. We remember what you did. You were there for us. You never hid. So now it's our turn to return your love. We won't let anyone hurt you. We swear by the stars above. Labor has power if they have no faction. The body's labor's minds and actions. Labor can refuse to take part in an economy rigged from the start. Labor will get there just due, or the whole whole economy can get screwed. Trillions of dollars in profit loss because money grubbers sought riches at any cost. The privilege wail and moan, riches gone, they sing a different tone. You know they love their money, to them it's like sweet honey. Grandma, grandma, lost in the storm, holding together to keep each other warm. On cold, hard streets, shivering in pain from the storm of cold winter's rain. When rich schemers took social security money, all the people across the land didn't think it funny. When half steal from have-nots, love shuts down the economy with the national strike. We love you, Grandma, Grandpa. We love you, Grandma, Grandpa.